Hello, everyone. So we started off the series of sessions here, drawing sessions, with the detritus. Then we moved and progressed to geometric shapes, then organic shapes, and then we started studying and pursuing the concepts of line drawing through gesture drawing, and then how to use the skeletal structure, how to use cubes, egg-shaped ovals, and so forth to have a better understanding of planes. Now at this point, what we'd like to do is start learning the muscle structure and how the muscle structure applies over the skeletal structure. This is usually referred to as Ecorche. Ecorche is essentially studies which are done through drawing, painting, or sculpture of the human figure with the skin removed. This is to display the muscle structure, the underlying structure. This is kind of the core of artistic anatomy. We will begin that first section. We'll break this down into a whole series of activities, but we'll begin the first one with the torso, the anterior view of the male human figure. And we'll go over a few things that I think will help make it a little bit easier to draw. So what I did here is I tried to block a little bit of this in advance. And we have here, I started with the egg-shaped oval, same as before. We can see it lightly under here. And then I took the bottom section here, and I wanted to have it turned at a little bit of an angle, so it looks like this guy's standing possibly on one leg. And again, we're just going to focus here on the torso. We're not going to do the full figure. We'll break down individual pieces over the ensuing weeks. We'll do arms, legs, hands, feet, and so forth. But we're going to start off with the anterior view of the male figure. So I got my egg-shaped oval in here, and then right in here where the pelvis is, we will have the lower part of the egg-shaped oval. And then I added in here the ball of the femur, and then we've got the great trochanter, the lesser trochanter. And coming down here, we have the femur, and we would have the patella in here if we're going to do all that. But we're going to focus up here, so I'm just going to block in a gesture so we get a little bit more sense of movement here. So then on the other side here, we have the head of the femur, great trochanter in here, lesser trochanter, and femur. And we might see a little bit of the side of this. I'm going to turn just slightly. And the patella would be somewhere in here if we were going to do all that. And now we'll go in and we'll start adding a few things. So basically, we have this lower egg-shaped oval, and we have the upper egg-shaped oval. Once you start adding the muscle, it's really helpful if you always know which way the rib cage is turning, and if you always look for the rib cage and pelvis, the rest is just a matter of adding the pieces together and having an understanding and knowledge of where the muscles are placed. So it's helpful to, when studying muscles, basically all muscles have an origin where the muscle begins, and an insertion where it connects, and then an action and what it does. So when you're drawing the human figure, if you want to do very realistic depictions of the human figure and capture all the movement and such, it's really helpful to know all of that. But if you're just drawing from nature and just copying what you see in front of you, it may not necessarily matter, but obviously the more you know, the more realistic your drawings can be and the more powerful they can be. So we have here our egg-shaped oval, and then we have the sternum. So the sternum would fit kind of in through here. So at the top here, we have the gladiolus, and in this middle section, or actually this top part is the manubrium, and then we have the gladiolus, and then we have the xiphoid process down in here, and then we have our ribs that open through here. And now we're going to start to add a little bit of the muscle structure. So if I add this shape right in here, it's kind of a squarish shape, and I'll do that on the other side as well. And these pectoral muscles, they're known as the pectoral muscles. They connect to the sternum area. So the top portion here, and let's just very quickly get in the clavicle. So we have the clavicle coming through here, and this forms the acromion process in the back. And we want to have our clavicle in here on the other side. And where the scapula meets in the back, that's the acromion process. So in this pectoral muscle, one of the main sections here at the top of the pectoralis, this whole section is known as the pectoralis major. This top portion, the origin, is from the clavicle, and this is known as the clavicular portion of the pectoralis major. So it begins here, right near the head of the clavicle, and it wraps around and will come through here. It actually will connect onto the inside of our humerus. Our chest muscles connect to the inside of our humerus. A lot of people don't realize that. In birds, the chest muscles are incredibly powerful because of flight. So their pectoral muscles are very large, powerful, and strong. So right here we have our clavicular portion. And then we have the sternal portion in here. And this whole section is known as the main pectoralis major. And this top portion begins here and wraps around and connects to. And then we have another connection that runs more or less through here and then through here. And then these lower sections will actually come in here and they connect to the ribs. So the origin of this portion of the pectoralis major is from the ribs. And let's add that, let's do that here on this other side. So we've got the pectoralis major here, or the clavicular portion wrapping around, and that would come down here and connect onto the inside of the humerus. Then we have the sternal portion here that comes through. The sternal portion that comes through here. Sternal portion that comes through here. And this is from the rib cage. And so in our chest muscles, the main muscles to think about are the pectoralis major. And it doesn't matter whether you are male or female, all humans have the same muscle structures. The size and variance may differ, but ultimately all humans have the same, for the most part, have the same rib cage. The osteology is the same, and so is the muscle structure. Then we have beneath here, we have the rib cage opening in here, and then we have right in here is our xiphoid process. And now we're going to talk a little bit here about the abdominal muscles. So again, egg-shaped oval coming in here, and all muscles have to sit on top of this structure. So it's really important that the underlying structure, the skeletal structure, is accurate. If it's not accurate, the muscles can't go on top of it properly. All the muscles sit on top of the skeletal structure. Now we get to the abdominal muscles, and the abdominal muscles are known as the rectus abdominis. And kind of a relatively simple way, a way that I like to remember it so that I always kind of get everything just quite right, is I like to think of the muscles of the stomach, I like to relate them to one of those old-time maritime ships. So if you think here, this top section, this is the center line that comes through. This would be the pubic bone right through here. The pubic symphysis is in this area, and that's on the lower part of the pelvis. The muscles will sit on here, and halfway between this rib cage and the crest here of the spine, and we have the crest of the spine here, the pelvis, right there, the spine of the iliac spine, and then we would come down in here and so forth, and we would come down here and so forth. And so the pelvic structure is in there and all the muscles will connect. So this bottom section in here gets sort of, it's rounded, just like the bottom of the egg-shaped oval. Even with the muscle structure, it's still going to have this rounded quality. Now, between the rib cage and the pelvis, and between the rib cage and the pelvis is here. As if you notice, I have this more compact on this side, this more open on this side, because I have the weight transferred onto one leg. So this collapses and creates a fold, and this is more open and it pulls. Now, right in the middle, between here and here and here and here, is where we would have our navel. So the navel area is right in here. So, and some people will put it too low, some people too high, but if you always get it at the halfway point between this and this and this and this, you're always going to have that look fairly accurate. Now we can start to add the abdominal. And then getting back to the ship here, I like to think of the muscles that fall above this. I like to remember it as sails of a ship. So if we go like this through here and this side, and we do this here on this side, it's just like the sails of a ship. And then we have the next muscle here, and the next muscle here. And I'm sure most of you, when you're working out and getting pretty fit, you probably have all heard at some point, hey, check out my six-pack. The reality is here is, if you're super fit, you would likely have an 8-pack, because on the top portion going right over here, there is also an additional rectus abdominal muscle here and here. So we have 1, 2, 3 here, and then these are the sails of the ship. This bottom section here is the bottom portion of the rectus abdominis, and I like to think of this as the hull of the ship. So we have the sails up here, and this bottom section is the hull of the ship. And there's a little division between here and here. But this bottom section in here basically is the hull. That would be the part of the ship that would be in the water. So here's the mast. And this area that falls between the muscles in here, they're little bands, and these are known as transverse tendinous bands. So we have the rectus abdominal muscles, and they're all connected by bands, transverse tendinous bands. The other thing that we have here that comes all the way down through here, most people only think that the muscle that we see in this area right here, this is known as the external oblique, and that comes in here like this. But it actually comes up into here, and it comes up into here. It's a very large muscle, and it helps with the twisting and turning of our body. So this comes all the way through here. This comes all the way through here. So the section that we always see in here that connects, that is the external oblique. Kind of a fun way to remember this. I remember when I was learning this when I was younger, we had a teacher, and he always said, well, you know, if this is a guy, what do they always refer to the external oblique on guys? And everyone was like, oh, those are love handles. And then he would ask us, well, is it named anything differently? This section named anything differently between boys and girls, or men and women? And one of the girls, she shouts out, yeah, we as females, we're a lot meaner than men. We call these muffin tops. So there you go. The external oblique has a couple of kind of derogatory terms known as love handles or as muffin top. That's a helpful way to remember the external oblique. The other set of muscles that we have that run up here along the side of the rib cage, they're much easier to see from the profile view. But we have a group of muscles in here, and there are 9, and they run directly over the ribs all through this top section, and there are 9 of them. And these are known as the serratus anterior. And they're kind of ribbon-like, the way they connect. And they come out right here, and there's 9, but on most people you can only see 3. On a super developed athlete, you might see 4. But basically, you can, and it doesn't matter if it's male or female, you generally can see these if somebody works out a lot and they're pretty athletic. So those are the serratus anterior muscles, and then here let's have the little ribbon. And what happens here with this ribbon-like muscle, the human figure is really interesting in that anytime you have a muscle that goes one way, there's always something underneath it crossing over it the other way. So the serratus anterior come in here like this. The external oblique come out like that. So we have the external oblique in here, and they come out of this. So they have a point here like a ribbon, and then that enables the external oblique to come out. And again, the external oblique comes all the way down through here and right into here. And on this side, it comes all the way down into here and right through there. And then this part of this section here is our rib cage, the thoracic cage here, a little fold in the external oblique because it's pinched because the weight's turned on one leg. And then the muscles wrap around here on the pelvis and come through. So let's get that a little bit more detailed up here, the clavicular portion. So again, so we have the clavicular portion of the pectoralis major. All this section in here, this is the sternal portion of the pectoralis major. Right through here, clavicular portion up here at the top, sternal portion, and there's several parts to it. And then this bottom part is comes from the rib cage. So the origin down here in this section originates from the rib cage. Then we have the rectus abdominis. So these are the top ones that go over the edge of the thoracic cage above. The part that we mostly see, however, is right in here. It's right in here. Then we have this next section in here, and they come in like this on the side. So there's a side plane. And so these are the sails of the ship. This portion of the sails of the ship of the rectus abdominis. And then we have the lower section here, and this is the hull of the ship, and this is the lower portion of the rectus abdominis. And right in here we have the head of the humerus. We'll just include the skeletal structure for this. We'll get to the muscle structure of the arms later. And we come down here, and remember right about our pelvis. And on this side, because our hip is bent, the medial epicondyle might fall just a little bit lower. And then we have the radius, just a light gesture in here. And then we have the ulna. And let's just give a little indication of a hand and the thumb. And same on this other side. So here we have the head of the humerus. And we have the shaft, which is thinner. Remember, the clavicular portion and the pectoralis major all insert into here, into the inside, the medial aspect of the humerus. And through here. And then we have the radius, and we have the ulna. And gesture of the hand. And right here, we also see a little bit of this muscle right through here, and this is the trapezius. Just give a little indication, that's actually one of our back muscles. And then we would have sternocleidomastoid muscle, and here if we have the head turned just a little bit, it would be somewhere up in here. We'll just do a light gesture. In fact, I might take that out in a minute because that's not the focus here. So anyway, so what I will do here is I will do a time lapse where I will shade this so that you can see what it's like when it's shaded. But that's the core of the front view of the male torso. So just remember in here, these are the pectoralis major muscles. Pectoralis major muscles in here, they are a bit sort of square-like in shape. Then we have right through here, we have the rectus abdominis muscles, and there are actually 8 of them. If you think of the top section here as the sails of a ship, and this bottom section of the hull of the ship, and the transverse tendinous bands that run between, and this would be the mast of the ship. This muscle coming all the way down through here through the side, and all the way down through here through the side, that is the external oblique. And then the muscles that come directly across the ribs here, those are the serratus anterior muscles. And that makes up the core of the muscles that you see from the anterior view of the human torso. So now I will spend a little time on shading this in a time lapse for you.